You have just tapped into the Christian Life Coach Collective, and I'm your host, Laura Malone. I'm here to equip and encourage coaches in skills, business, personal life, and faith. I believe you're already 100% worthy and capable, and you're called for such a time as this. So let's get you walking it out with courage and confidence so you can be an amazing coach who sees transformation and great results in both your life and the lives around you. Let's get started. All right, let's get your clients some breakthrough and do some things like figuring out how to spot the real problem, the real issue, the stuff underneath, right? Finding beliefs, not just the story. And it's really common to have clients where they bring a lot, like a big story, a lot of details, lots of emotion, and other people into the story. And what you want to listen for isn't the situation and the circumstance that they are trying to debrief about oftentimes. We're looking for a story underneath the story. This is the paradigm work. This is the ability to see that what they oftentimes think is the truth, they think is the facts, is not always the same as the paradigm of what they think and believe, how they're interpreting the actual facts, right? So the work of coaching starts by hearing the paradigm that they operate underneath the narrative that they're giving language to. So if somebody says, my boss never listens, or my husband never listens, my wife never listens, you could actually spend the whole session exploring lots of different types of communication strategies, right? Or you could pause and ask them, what's it mean to you when you're not listened to? And oops, now we go back to like mom or Mrs. Keenan in 4th grade. This one question will shift everything for you if you can find a way to dial it in and dig a little bit deeper, right? We're going to the next layer. We're doing mold remediation in our basement. Had to rip out three rooms of carpet plus steps. And now we're going to do just a stain on the concrete and not put the carpet back. But the guy who does the floor, amazing guy, he's explaining all of these things to me about the concrete and how the paint, well, the stain or paint, if you wanted to do something like acrylics, like something more fun, or epoxy, but he's like, it all moves differently and I have to see how it interacts with the concrete and the floor, everything. But before he could do any of that artistic work, and I'm not saying it's like, we're not doing like a Monet on the floor downstairs. Not that kind of artistic, but for him, like it's his craft. And before we can do any of that looks finished, he had to take this grinder, this metal, this electric grinding machine, and his crew came in and had to grind the top layer of the concrete completely off because, well, you don't have to do it for every floor, but we had to do it for mine because there was so much carpet glue in one of the rooms. It was disgusting, the amount of carpet glue. My entire upstairs, even though all the vents are completely taped off and closed, and I do not have the heat on. That's fun. I have all the fans on. It's like 50 degrees at nighttime, and I have all of the fans on and screens open and the heat off because it smells so bad over here. But it's worth it because if we didn't get underneath that top layer, then everything we do to finish the floor is compromised. And we had to grind the top layer off because a lot of moisture had come up through the concrete and a lot of changes since that floor had been poured in the 80s sometime. A lot of changes have happened. It took decades for that floor to become the floor it is today. And the top layer needed to go because the healthiest version of that floor is dealt with doing something with the layer underneath the top layer, right? Do you see what I'm getting at? We've got to get to the next layer. We have to go beneath the surface because if we just, like I said, covered up the floor with communication strategies about how to feel heard, how to be heard, then we would never get to the underlying narrative of the fact that I don't feel heard. And that goes deeper. That reaches into the past. That stretches into the history of our relationship or marriage. This is something that I've experienced at multiple jobs with other employers. Like there's so many things. I feel listened to when people look at me. Well, somebody else would say, I feel listened to when somebody else banters with me, whether they're looking at me or not. So we've got to learn to ask the questions that go deeper so that we can make sure we're actually helping our clients get a result that is actually point B that they want, but maybe they don't know how to give language to it. Sometimes a client knows that they want different results, but what they think they're facing, the facts that they think that they're dealing with, are not as they would present at a surface level. So sometimes the client's deeper pain isn't about the boss. It's about feeling unseen or unheard or even powerless. We don't have to fix the circumstance or change it for them as the coach. Our role is to help them see what's happening inside of them so that they can take personal responsibility. Well, they might not be able to change all the facts, but they can change the way they're interpreting their facts. And this can help them shift by seeing what the real problem is that they're trying to face, that they're debriefing. This big, long story, a lot of times what a client's doing is debriefing because they haven't been able to verbalize it. Nobody else has been listening. Nobody else cares. But you, as their coach, you're holding space for them to explain what's going on inside that mind castle. They need to clean out a room. And you just said, hey, I'll stand here in the doorway while you talk about what happened in this room. Like, let's clean it out and tell me, like, how do you want to decorate it? What do you want to do to the floor? You want to rip the carpet out? So in your next sessions, like, or even with other people that aren't clients, start listening for people to repeat certain words or phrases, different spikes in emotion. Notice when their face, if you're face to face or in Zoom, notice when their facial expressions change or their body language changes, the tone of their voice changes. When they start emphasizing something, they might not even recognize it for themselves, but you can help them spot a clue that there is some kind of belief system or paradigm that is shifting, needs to shift. There's an interpretation or thought process that's under the surface of what they think they wanted coaching on. So you could say things like, what are you making this mean about you? What does that say about who you believe you are? Right? You can always ask questions that are pointing to what they believe about their identity, their purpose, and their belonging, because those are the three big questions of the human soul. Who am I? What am I made for? And where do I fit? You're going to be amazed how often the problem that your client brings you is not always the one that they really need to solve. And you can really just ask questions that get curious and get them underneath that top layer of concrete that is covered in carpet glue. So listen for the paradigm under the story, write down maybe even like their top 3 or even 2 repeated phrases if you keep hearing them say things, right? And ask yourself, what belief might be shaping their experience? How can I ask questions that get them to find this underlying belief system or paradigm that they're operating from? And just simply pray over them. Like, pray, Lord, give me discernment to hear what's beneath the story. Help me see through the surface details and the big stories and emotions and recognize the deeper belief that you want to touch. Let truth bring freedom where misunderstanding has maybe held this client captive. Okay? So just invite Holy Spirit into this with you. Best coach on the face of the planet. And he's always with you. So, all right, friends, go get your clients some breakthrough. Thanks for listening. For more coaching resources and to learn how to work with me, head to sterlingandstonementoring.com or click the link in the show notes. Remember, walk boldly in your calling, and I'll talk to you next time.